I would say trying to avoid Chinese electronics manufacturing is like trying to avoid oxygen. Like you can try, but everything is made in China, so just accept it.
Made Daily. Hello and welcome to the Made Daily podcast. I'm John Michael Thomas.
I'm Pierre Hageman.
Made Daily covers our favorite stories online, from tech to social media.
Our expert thoughts and opinions about information security, website design, and development.
And other random stories from across the internet.
Random.
This week's episode of Made Daily podcast is made possible by Cinemechanics, the premier camera and lens rental house. When you're shooting your next commercial or platform streaming series or Cinebolt commercial, Cinemechanics will ensure your project stays next level.
And Made Daily version 5, the all-in-one secure website builder with built-in data collection tools and secure customer portals, now available.
All in one, designer friendly. And one of our way back internet favorites, what is it, Pierre?
Robot Odyssey, one of the greatest games and possibly hardest games ever made.
We'll see. First story, the Internet Archive breach. Now this is like what? There was a series of these.
Yeah, kind of an ongoing issue with their sort of tendency to put credentials into their software code, which then they're exposing on the internet. So, yeah, the first attack, they were able to access their it's called GitLab. It's like a source control repository to gain access to their software source code, which had other credentials inside of it. So after the first attack, right, they should have learned their lesson and rotated all of their controls. And first of all, don't put credentials in your source code. One, keep them encrypted and store them somewhere else. But then they should have rotated those, right, and take them out of their source code, which they didn't. So now the attackers were able to leverage the credentials they found for the Zendesk, which is a company that does like help desk support ticket stuff. And so they were able to access that as if they were the application and gather a whole bunch of data on their users who had submitted support tickets to their system. It's not a great look for the Internet Archive, but also, like, come on, the Internet Archive is great, and to be attacking them is terrible. So maybe if you see a flaw in their systems, maybe just tell them about it, and don't be a dick. That's kind of my thought about it.
Interesting.
I mean, yes, Internet Archive, they do better, please. But everybody else, let's come on.
There. You can actually go to the Internet Archive. It's an actual physical place in San Francisco, which I did not know. It's by Sake Zone. So next time you're in for some sake, swing by the Internet Archive. So they got in through Zendesk. So I wouldn't think of Internet Archive as, like, I guess through their help center, right? You're trying to correct archive records.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. What does it mean? Can you talk me to? Get me clear on unrotated access tokens. What does that actually mean?
Yeah. So and when you submit a support ticket, right, Zendesk is a third-party application, and this is another reason why it's always in the seams where these attacks and these data breaches happen, right? So the Internet Archive didn't have software to handle their support ticketing system built into their application, so they had to plug in this external thing, and in order to do that, they had to do a link up, right? And the access token is what tells Zendesk, the software, who the user of the application is, in this case, Internet Archive, and what they're allowed to do, right? So now the flaw happened in the the Internet Archive folks including that access token in their source code in a way that it was visible to the attackers, right? And then the second flaw was when, after the first breach, when the attackers had gotten access to their source code, they didn't change that. Like, you can go to Zendesk and say, I want a new access key, and Zendesk will give them a new, it's a long string of letters and numbers, incomprehensible to most people, but, for computers, it doesn't matter, right? So then if they would have rotated those, the attackers would have been using old keys. They wouldn't have been able to access the system. But since they hadn't done that, they were able to get in and exfiltrate all that data. Now, at the same time, they also did what's called a distributed denial of service. It's not really clear if it was the same attackers or different ones, at least not in the articles that I read. But a DDoS is when you use like a network of either compromised computers, or sometimes it's people who volunteer to be part of the denial of service attack, and then they just send tons of traffic to a website to try to bring it down by massively overloading their servers. So that happened kind of at the same time. So both those things work in tandem to kind of ruin the reputation, and also they steal data from the site.
Hmm. But if you don't know what the Wayback Machine is, let's take a look at it too. So here's mydaily.com. Records go as far back as 2010. Look at that. Now that might have been, there's a big gap there, so this might have been whoever owned Made Daily back in the day.
It's before that we were dark matter platforms.
So. That's right. Let's look at the 22nd, 2024. Big snapshot. Let's see what happens here. My only complaint about the Internet Archive is it's pretty slow.
Well, when you're archiving the entire internet for decades, that's a lot of data.
This is somewhat recent. Yeah, it doesn't look too bad. Let's step back to like this one. See what we were looking like back then. Here we go. There's the old site.
Yeah.
From a few years back.
Cool.
What other random Internet Archive things should we look at here?
I mean, Internet Archive, the Wayback Machine is one thing, but they have books, like online books that they've digitized, and you can actually check them out. So they're a full-on legit library, right? I think they have all kinds of Creative Commons. It's really, really an amazing project, and should be protected and not attacked. I maintain my opinion.
I agree with you. Now, do they have games though? They have software. So old school emulation.
Yeah, they have
MS-DOS games.
Mm-hmm. All kinds of old emulators.
So this is fun.
Yeah.
I usually go here when we're looking for like archival footage for, a documentary project or something like that. So yeah, the old school emulator. Let's talk about passkeys. Two-factor authentication versus a passkey. So what's the difference between the two here?
Well, okay. So
they're kind of overlapped.
There is a little bit of overlap, right? Because you can use a passkey as a second factor. If you say you have a username and password and you use your passkey as your second factor, that is, adding essentially an unfishable sort of second factor to your authentication, which is amazing, right? They're really good.
So wait 1 second. Let's back up 1 second though. So everybody knows what a password is. Yes. You put a username in and a password in, and a good password is how long? 18 unique characters.
A good password is something that you remember that nobody else can guess, that that isn't a common dictionary word, right? So here's the thing about passwords. If it's too long for you to remember and you have to write it down and then you lose that, it's a bad password, right? If it's too simple, or if the rules
Like
around your
password.
the rules are very common, by the way. The rule if the rules around, like at work, right? If the rules around your password are too complicated and they make you rotate them too frequently, then people end up using just bad passwords. They'll use the minimum thing that they can do. Like, I cannot tell you how many times I've seen like winter with a capital W, winter '01, and then after the next password rotation it becomes spring '01, and then when they run out of ones it's winter '02. So you can write scripts to very easily check like all of those things, and people you can build password databases based on website content, and so you want it to be very difficult for somebody else to guess. So one thing um, that I used to use, well, okay, the best thing to do, have a password manager, have your password manager randomly generate a password for you, and then store that. The password manager is encrypted, have it unlock with your fingerprint or your face ID or whatever you want to do, right? Long, unguessable, good passwords, right? And then you can just rotate them whenever you want, because I don't remember any of my passwords. I just have it on my
And then
password safe, right?
and then write down your, if you have a password safe, write down your master password safe, rotate that, put that in a safe place. Do not have that with your phone device or wherever. Keep that separately, or make that for sure be something you can memorize.
Alternatively, you could unlock your password safe with a passkey, which we'll get to in a second
Yep.
here. If you can't use a password safe and you have to use a password, then we can put some links in the description to some sites on how to generate good passwords. One thing that I do is, like, you could pick a phrase or like a movie quote that you like, just one that's a little bit more obscure so everybody doesn't know that you like it, and you can just take like the first letter of each word in the phrase and then keep the capitalization and maybe swap out some letters and numbers, so you can get a kind of long, random looking password, but it's still easy for you to remember. Again, it's not great. If you can use a password safe, do that instead. But there
So
are
you
ways you can kind of generate
so you
passwords.
could use supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, but you'd have to know how to spell it
You could,
and
yes.
say it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's amazing how people still use password or
Yeah.
QWERTY 1234. Um, I mean, I think most people now have gotten, you know, it figured out, but
No.
also, try
No.
not to use the same series of things from one password to the next.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another thing. Another good reason to use a password safe is so you don't share passwords across sites. That's the biggest thing. I think we talked about Have I Been Pwned a
Mm-hmm.
while back. So they keep a whole database of passwords that have been breached, and chances are that if you use the same password on multiple sites, there's a very good chance that it's going to get breached at some point. Then the attackers have that password and can start finding you across the internet and using your password. So don't do that. Use your password safe. And personally, I prefer the password safe that just stores locally on my device, and then I use the iCloud backup to back up my iPhone data to iCloud. And then if I need that same password safe on something that's not my phone, like my desktop, I will transfer it with Dropbox or some other, just file transfer. Although getting a file from your phone to your computer in 2024 is still a gigantic pain in the butt, and I do not understand why. So we've talked a good deal about passwords, but we're what the pass key does is it kind of eliminates. All right, when
Higher
used
protection.
when used as a first factor, right? When you don't use it as a second factor, then you don't need the username and password at all. It basically you authenticate to the service or to the site using the passkey, which under the covers it's using the cryptographic signing keys and certificates. Actually, it works very similarly to SSL TLS that we talked about I think last week. And so the certificates authenticate you to the service, and the service issues a challenge. They encrypt that challenge with your public key. It goes down to your device. You decrypt it. You sign it. You send it back, and then the that's how the
So
whole authentication exchange
and
works.
and for people who don't know, a passkey can just be a little USB stick essentially, but it's specifically designed to be a passkey.
Yeah,
And in certain situations, you have to plug that into your machine, and that will log you into your machine. Or you may be able to get in for a period of time without it, but then eventually you'll have to re-authenticate with the passkey to get just into your machine. And a lot of corporations are starting to do this now because if a computer gets stolen or whatever, they'll be able to lock it out, delete the sensitive data on that device, and protect the property
yeah, and
overall.
corporations have been doing some version of this for a long time. Like there was a while when we were using smart cards to authenticate and to log into computers or onto the network. So and nothing has really worked very well across all of the different types of devices that people are using on networks these days. The passkeys, they're pretty nice. So you can get a hardware passkey that kind of looks like that. Then they're generally pretty small. They either USB-C or USB-A, and you plug into the device, you touch it, and off you go. You can also get the phones. A lot of recent phones have passkey software built in, and then that would use the phone authentication, either your Touch ID or your Face ID or whatever um, your Android device is using, and then you can use that phone device as your pass key. Kind of the little bit of the downside to that is passkeys are very hard to move from one device to another, right? So if you lose your phone, uh, or not so much if you lose the phone because they'll get backed up we were the same thing we were talking about before. But if you say you want to switch from an iPhone to an Android or vice versa, it's really challenging to move those passkeys between vendors. Um, so just be aware of that if you decide to start using passkeys. The other kind of downside to passkeys that I've seen is they're not super widely supported for sort of primary factor authentication. More and more places are using them as a second factor. You can log in with your username and password and then use a passkey as an additional um, authentication mechanism, but I haven't seen too many places. I know Microsoft and Google and sort of the huge players are starting to support just a passkey instead of a username and password. But if you're just logging into um, probably like your corporate network or a random site on the internet, the chances that they're supporting passkeys are fairly low.
And and the benefits are you're less likely to be a victim of a phishing scam.
Yeah,
You
they're
are
essentially
authenticate
unfishable.
yeah, you're authenticating your way into your systems, and then when you leave, you're locking it back up again. Um, and
Well, to clarify that,
yeah,
make sure you still do log out because
sure.
oftentimes the passkey will create your session, but it's not continuing to check the passkey. So you would want to log out if you're on a public computer. But they really are more secure than a username and a password. So even with kind of the challenges and the sort of convenience headaches of not being able to move between devices, which how many people really do that anyway? But the they cannot be phished, right? And they by nature they can't be reused, right? So when you use your passkey to log into Google or Amazon, it's creating a completely unique um, you know uh, authentication setup for you. Um, so it can't be reused. So if an attacker were to gain access to your you know Google uh, WebAuthn, they can't use that on Amazon, and they also can't trick you into logging into their site like they can with the password, right? They send you a phishing email that looks like Amazon, but it's not Amazon, and you log in with your Amazon username and password, and now they have all your stuff. That doesn't work because the browser will know, and it will refuse to do the authentication if it's not the site that created the credential in the first place.
And Passkeys started by the FIDO Alliance. Fast identity online, which is another cool thing about tech and companies and like coming up with ways to make things better. That's awesome. It'll be interesting to see where we're at when we get beyond the passkey. Something else. We'll have chips in our wrists or something. Little Blade Runner scary.
Logan's Run, the crystal in your hand.
Yeah. So if you want to learn more about Passkeys, go check out fidoalliance.org, and they have great resources there to let you know everything about it. And if you haven't used this in your business, that would be a place to start. And I'm sure you can reach out to them and find out how to implement this throughout the business. You know, I went and got myself a password manager, and it's an online service. Now, what if I want to have it run off a passkey? Where do I go buy one? Where do I find one? Do you buy them from anywhere? Do you buy them from a Chinese company, or do you not go? Do you buy American? Like, do you need to worry about that sort of stuff?
Well, do you need to? No. Do people worry about that? Yes, some people do. I would say trying to avoid Chinese electronics manufacturing is like trying to avoid oxygen. Like you can try, but everything is made in China, so you just accept it. I think probably the easiest way to get started is to use your phone, right? If you want to buy a hardware device, there are plenty on the market available. But if the company that you're buying from makes FIPS validated hardware, then the chances are the rest of their hardware is decent. So I would say look for that. Um, Anything that is truly FIPS validated is going to be more expensive, so you maybe don't need to buy that one. But if they have a consumer model of the same device, then that can work for you.
Moving on. Wayback Element Robot Odyssey. So I never heard of this, Pierre.
No? I played it when I was a kid, and then again with my kids recently. Not a couple of years ago, I guess. But
what did you play it on? Do you remember?
Originally, I think it was
Windows
Apple
or
II.
Mac.
Originally, it was on the Apple II, yeah. And then recently, there's somebody has made a browser emulated version. Like it is the original game. It just runs in the browser. So shout out to Scanlime who did that, and throw them some money if you can. But yeah, the game is great. Yeah. So
the Learning Company presents Robot Odyssey by Mike Wallace and Leslie Grimm.
You get sucked into Robotropolis, right? And then you have to use these robots to escape and get back to your house. And it's great. It is like hardware hacking for kids. So each robot has like thrusters and sensors and antennas, and they can communicate with each other, and you can even wire up um, like chips that you can use to make them do complicated paths through mazes and stuff. And it's all done with logic gates. So you have OR gates and gates and NOT gates, and then they it runs electricity through the logic gates, and that's how you control the robots. And the game is super fun and really, really hard. And as a software engineer, it was still challenging for me. I was never able to finish it as a kid, but we did finish it when we played a couple of years ago, and it was hard but super fun. So play it and enjoy it. It's great.
So I have no idea what I'm doing here. Oh, what was that?
Now you're inside the robot. And these guys, they come pre-programmed with some stuff. So yeah, the bumper, the little half moon thing, those are the sensors. So when it hits the wall, it triggers the bumper and it sends electricity through there. And then you can wire it up to the little triangles, and those are the thrusters. And then you can wire it up to the grabby hand and the antenna. The kind of really fun thing about this game is it doesn't actually really, maybe in the original manual it told you what each of the chips do. So you can probably look that up. I don't remember what chip number 2 does, so you'd have to watch what the robot is doing and see. But it looks like it's maybe a bus. So when it bumps the bottom sensor, it looks like it's sending out a signal to the thruster on the left. And that's right there, that's a NOT gate. So it's saying if you're not touching a key, then use then trigger the antenna or the grabby hand. Trigger the grabby hand.
Now I know what I'm gonna be doing all weekend. Trying to figure this out. It's a little weird though. It looks like you had a joystick at one point. You could probably hook up a joystick to get around and then have a button. But I mean, get keyboard controls too. So awesome. This is the city sewer. Ooh, what's over here? I think this is where I started from.
But then where you get into the real brain busting is when you go into the innovation lab and you can wire up your own circuits like that number 2, whatever that number 2 was. It has a bunch of
Well, maybe you should
logic
be
inside of
playing.
it. Huh?
Maybe you should be playing. Give us the
Yeah.
tour here.
I'd have to remember how to even play.
The pro. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's fun. Good game.
What was the purpose of this? To teach coding?
Um, it's not really coding so much, although it is kind of definitely
Digital logics.
proto coding. It's like full. It's electrical engineering. It's hardware. Like if you want to understand how computer chips work at a very low level, this is a great way to kind of get an intro to that. As it's like if you want, for example, one thing that you can use in the game is, say you want a delay, right? What you can do is send your electrical current through a bunch of OR gates, and each OR gate adds a small little delay because it has to travel through the thing, right? So you can have it cycle around and maybe hit the antenna or hit the grabby hand or something, and it'll have it do that then on a loop, and you can use that to then create other
You,
logic.
you definitely got to play some of this so we can add it into the cast.
Sounds good.
You know, it's funny. It says, created by Mike Wallace and Dr. Leslie Grimm, and programmer Roran Rubinet. Known for its difficulty,
Mhm.
it remains a standout in 1980s education. So that's maybe, the first seed of your journey to becoming a computer programmer, Peter.
Maybe. Yeah, it definitely is. It's definitely challenging.
I played all kinds of video games as well, but I got started on like the VIC-20 before the Commodore 64. and then my cousin had the Atari, so I always felt like the Atari was a little bit going backwards because I thought the VIC-20 games were a little bit more advanced. That's really cool. So kids out there, free games online. All right, one more story. I thought we'd take a look at a couple podcasts ago. We looked at the Star Tribune, and I saw an ad for them. Yeah, we looked at their redesign, and I saw an ad for them that was advertising their social media accounts. And the ad was a gal going around filming stuff around the Twin Cities. And so, I mean, they're kind of starting to get, featured articles in here. And they've got some reels, Billie Eilish. So it's kind of interesting. I mean, this is sort of like, it's not, the news is no longer what's fit to print. It's also media. It's all kinds of stuff. So nice job, Star Tribune. Got to keep checking this out.
So 173,000 followers. Is that up since they did their redesign?
I don't know. Wasn't able to verify that, but that's not bad. But we'll check it in 5 more podcasts and see where they are.
There we go.
You should also check out our social media accounts. We are ON Made Daily, on Made Daily, and there's nothing there right now. We'll be building out our socials at onmadedaily.com. And thanks for joining us today. If you want to check out any of the stories or topics we covered, head over to madedaily.com/blog. Definitely got to go there to figure out how to get the Robotropolis link and play some Robot Odyssey. And if you'd have a story you'd like to share or a site you'd like reviewed, or you want to leave a comment, and please leave us a comment and we'll get in touch.
Don't forget to subscribe.
Until next time,
stay secure.
Made Daily.